Go ahead.
Okay, good evening and welcome to the March 4th special meeting of the Board of Estimate and Taxation to begin our budget review process. Madam Clerk, may I get you to call a roll, please?
Mayor Rilling, Mr. Abrams,
Here?
Mr. Camacho, Mr. Constant,
Here.
Mr. Jelleret,
Here.
Mr. Casimis, Miss Yang. Okay, we don't have a quorum. We have 3.
Okay, but
In
since this is
attendance.
an informational session, I don't necessarily believe we need a quorum. So we will go ahead and proceed. Um, just for the public record, I will remind everyone that these are our working sessions with the departments to review and understand their budget recommendations for the coming fiscal year. There is no public comment during these sessions. All public comment will be heard at the hearing later this month, at which point the public is welcome to express their point of view. So Tom, with that, I will turn it to you to lead us through the first budget items.
Okay, yeah, we're going to start with a few of the general government areas and then public safety, fire and police. And then at the tail end, sorry, Tina, will be human resources and personnel. So I'd sent out the files with all the line item detail, which I will share on my screen right now. And tell me if you see that.
Yes, sir.
And it says mayor on the left-hand side.
That is correct.
Okay, and how is the clarity? Does it need to be a little bigger, smaller, or just right?
Uh, I would suggest we make it a little bigger if at all possible.
Okay, let me hide a couple columns. How about that? That better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, so just to walk you through this, and we'll see this over the course of all six of the meetings, but this area right here, these are the historical actuals, 3 years of actuals right here, 22, 23, and 24. Right? And then over here, just for comparatives, we have a 3-year average. So that 3-year average is the average of those 3 numbers. And then versus request is the 3-year average versus what the department asked for. So in other words, on the mayor's full-time salary line, the average is 194. The fiscal 26 ask is 178. The difference is 15. And you can see that down the line. Not necessary for anything, but helpful to identify some trends or provoke or prompt any questions on some significant variances. The other columns that we really want to focus on here are the recommended, these right here. So this is the recommended based on a combination of the finance office and the mayor's office on the recommendations. And these two right here are the comparatives of the 26 recommend, 178, versus the 25 approved, which is 174, 772 in terms of dollars and percentages. So you'll recall when we started the whole process way back when, the guidance for the departments was to attempt to keep their ask under 2.5%. So just as an example here, the mayor's total is 1.45% all in. So those are the key things that we'll be looking at as we go through our analysis. But one thing I do want to mention, you will see some pretty high percentages from time to time, and that is primarily. Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt. The mayor just called me. He has having difficulty signing in. Can you possibly send the link to him? Maybe he has the old link.
Yeah, we'll do. It's on its way.
And while you're doing that, Tom, let the record show that Ms. Yang did join us about 2 minutes ago. So we now have 4 members of the BET here for this discussion. The mayor will make 5.
Yeah, apologize for interruption.
Okay. Did we lose a screen share or do we still have the spreadsheet?
No, you still have it.
Okay. So as I was saying, just one thing to note on the salary lines. Recall that last year we had a half-year hiring freeze. We do not have that built into this year's plan. So when we do comparatives to a full year salary for 26 and it's against a half year salary in 25, it looks like it's a rather significant jump. But realistically, it's really just a comparison of a full year salary versus a half year salary. And we'll see that time and again throughout all of the departments during this process. So with that being said, let's see if the mayor is on. Not just yet. Tom Livingston, you want to jump down while we wait for the mayor? You want to jump down to say,
Sure.
DEI? If you want to talk to that one, where that is still an open position, but again, right here, there's example one of the percentages, a full year salary versus a half year salary. So go ahead, Tom.
Well, I don't know how do you want me to comment on that? I mean, it's an open position, as you know. I'm not.
Tom, is it an open position that we expect to actually fill, just given some of the broader landscape on DEI at the moment?
And it's the question we're wrestling with. I think the mayor will have more to say about that if we give him a
Yeah,
minute to get on.
I just got on. Thank you. I was having difficulty. Why, I don't know. It is my intention to fill the spot. We're proceeding very carefully, but I know that our Attorney General is participating in a lawsuit against the administration for taking away funds for people that are engaged in DEI. I feel very strongly that he's going to win.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, on that score, that may take a while. Will we not hire someone till we know that our Attorney General has won, or will we go ahead and hire someone before
Well,
that?
I don't like being bullied. And this is a bullying tactic. I think it's unconscionable that they're trying to tell cities and towns and states what they can and cannot do in order to get funding. So I think we're going to be okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, your intention is to move forward.
That's correct.
Other questions about DEI? Okay, seeing none, maybe let's move back up to the mayor's department, Tom.
Yeah, Mayor, up here is your the first area, and it's yours. And you can see right here that year over year, you are at 1.45%, primarily in the step salary increase of 2.35%. Made a few reductions to bring it down even further. Not much else to say on that, other than it's really just the salary and a handful of supply items.
I'll answer any questions anybody may have about that 1.4.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, I have a question more, Tom, for you, just as we continue to read the spreadsheet, right?
Yep.
When you look over at columns AC, AD, and AE,
Yes.
I assume in this case that for the mayor, we have $113,000 of actual expense. We have another $1,000 of incurred but not yet billed expense, and then there's a remaining expense of $76,000 that we expect to incur but has not been billed. Correct?
Yep,
Correct.
you're reading it properly.
Tom, just quickly, Tom, could you enlarge that? I'm having trouble seeing it. My screen is very small.
Okay, is
Is
that
there any way
better?
you can, no, not yet. Yeah, let me get my book. I've got my book in front of me.
Okay. So on and then Tom, on the remaining to be billed, and again, it's going to be a general question. at our current run rate, do we expect to incur all of those expenses, or do we expect with any of the remaining to be billed to underrun the projected actual or the forecasted actual?
Hard to say on some of the expense items, but on the salary item, we are right on track. We're probably a little bit under budget, primarily because we haven't settled the union contracts, but when they do get settled, there'll be a retro wage component, which will bring that probably right back to very close to what the budget is. So this is actually one of the simpler ones to budget. There's only one salary in there, and we know what it is, and we can project for it. So there may be a couple of thousand left over at the end, and conference fees or something like that. But
Right, I understand. I'm
Yeah.
looking at that, using the mayors as an example, but that's something as we go through the other department.
yeah,
that
but
I will
you're
understand.
you're reading and interpreting all the columns correctly.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from any other BET members related to the mayor's budget?
Mayor, I attempted to expand it. Did it increase a little bit or no?
Now, for some reason, I'm having a difficulty, but I'll do the best I can.
Okay.
I have my book with me.
So
All right, so-
I think we're good on the mayor's department. for
Okay,
right
we're good
now.
on DEI. Legislative is an area where we book our expenses for the common council. Primarily over the last few years, the majority of these expenses have been on the charter rewrite, and more recently on the redistricting effort. So those types of things would be billed to this to be billed to this area. Most of it is in other professional services. We use outside counsel. In this particular case, it was the same attorney for both of those initiatives, which would explain why we had pretty high actuals compared to what the budget is. But that has calmed down a little bit, and we are projecting expenses of 9,000 in there for next year, and that's flat year over year right here.
Okay.
Moving
Questions from
on.
anyone?
Sorry, question?
Just making sure that none of the
Okay.
other BET members have questions.
No, I had a question. Was there any particular, so it seems like the outside counsel is more expensive, is that correct? Was
Yes.
there any?
Well, I'd say
particular-
we don't have outside counsel for that effort. So it's a pretty niche skill that there's one individual in the state who is highly regarded on both of those matters, and the city has been using him for the better part of 2+ years on both of those initiatives.
Okay, so that was more situational, doesn't happen all the time.
No, there will be a little maintenance as we go forward, since the charter rewrite is a bit of an ongoing concern. It's we're not going to let it go another number of years before we readdress it. So yeah, we'll see some charges trickling in from time to time.
Okay.
All right, moving on to Corporation Council. Looking down at their bottom level, they have an increase year over year of 8.95%. And we have Jeff Spar on the line to speak to that. Jeff, I thought I promoted you, but I will try again. Or at least allow to talk. Jeff, give it a shot.
Can you hear me now?
We got you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so the only two areas where well, 3 areas was an increase. There's the mandatory increase for salaries, which is contractual. There's going to be an adjustment that could be spoken to, I think, by Jared said, that we've switched from a model where Mario, the Corporation Council, is getting a salary to a retainer agreement that was passed by the Common Council a short while ago. I think about a month and a half ago. The two areas of note would be the other professional services account. that's going to be going up, requested more than what was recommended. The recommended was 350 and we asked for 350. The approved from a prior was 300. The reason being is that there was a reevaluation and that we have well over 100 tax appeals right now. And we're going to be getting more, and we're going to be going into the litigation part. And that's where we need to spend money on real estate appraisers. We have basically hundreds of millions of dollars in value at stake. It's well worth it. The money that we spend on the real estate appraisers and the money that we spend on outside counsel to help us to get this is going to pay itself back as far as the taxes go. So it's more of an investment than an expense. The subscription tax law line item you see there, that shows a significant increase, but I don't think we're going to spend it all. Let me explain that. The subscription basically is for what's for Westlaw. That's the online computer service that the attorneys use. It's where we do all of our research. We don't spend money on hardcover books these days and, you know, having to do shepherdizing and finding out all the different cases and stuff like that. We do everything online and it's very, very time efficient and effective. It's just amazing. But the other thing too is we use Westlaw, but Westlaw also has a component where they give your training, your continuing legal education, CLEs. So rather than when we in the past, we would have to go away to conferences someplace in Connecticut and get mileage and spend all the time doing that, we can actually do it right online. So the cost for the subscription includes this online service. And it would be very, very expensive. So this, by including it in Westlaw overall, it's a it's a cost savings. Let me explain the part about we don't know that we're going to spend that much. When I was looking at the renewal that we have, generally it goes up about 5% per year. The guy that I was talking to, it seemed like he wasn't really paying attention or whatever. It seemed to me when I was looking at what the contracts were and what it provided for was going to be a lot more than what they were going to be charging us. I remember Tom, I went in to speak to Tom and I was showing him the paperwork and we kind of thought we're going to put in for the top end, but we think that they're probably not going to charge us that much. So I just kind of didn't really want to call it to his attention too much. So I think that's an overstatement as far as what we're going to need for Westlaw by a significant amount, like, you know, by about $8,000 or so. So anyhow, those are the items. Any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Jeff, do you want to, sorry, go ahead.
Just a quick question. Westlaw, if we don't, that expense, if we don't use it, it's not incurred, right? It's not a flat fee for our Westlaw subscription. It is based on usage. So if we underutilize on CLE, that 8,000 will return to the general fund at the end of the year. Is that a correct statement? It's not just a flat subscription fee?
No, it is a flat subscription fee. It's about the $2,300 or so a month. But it's the bread and potatoes for the law department.
No, I understand the importance of Westlaw. I just don't understand then how you can say we're probably not going to spend that $8,000 extra if it's in a flat subscription fee.
Oh, because the guy, when he was giving me the paperwork, the way there was the way the subscription was running out, it was running at, they give you like a certain rate. So let's say that it's like $10,000 for the year, okay? And then they say we're going to bump it up to like you know, by 5%. So it's going to be, you know, 10.5. And we got into an issue of our fiscal year ending on June 30th, as opposed to the contract renewal was being sometime like in November. And so the rate would go up in November to carry over. And it was just kind of odd that way. And the way he was giving me the paperwork, I think that when I was doing the calculation that we should be paying more, but it didn't seem like he was pressing for that. In other words, I think he was miscalculating on the short end. And I'm an honest person, but I wasn't about to sit there and go forward and say, hey, buddy, and shake the tree and say, we owe you more money. So what I had spoken with Tom was we're going to put in for the full amount. I don't know that we're going to get charged that, but there is a subscription fee. I think that when all the dust settles, it'll be significantly less than that. But we
Right.
need to cover ourselves by putting it in.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Yeah,
Questions?
my view, my view is the accountants or the auditors will eventually catch up. So better to be ready for that moment. Jeff, just one last thing. You want to talk about the IT software? I know that's a bit of a new twist this year.
Oh, yeah, the other thing too was in the past, the IT department, when we had particular software that different departments used, the IT department was putting it within their budget and they were picking up the tab. And then what they decided to do was for each department that uses a special programming, that they said, well, we're gonna have you guys pay for it. So that was a new twist. They added that to us, the 7,500 as you see there. So that's a new thing. That is for, we have something called NetDocs, which is a way for us to share documents and to edit them and to transfer them and to, move around with them. So the reason why there's that additional new cost had to do with the IT department deciding to share the wealth, so to speak.
Okay.
Well,
Questions from other members of the BET?
This is probably a question for Tom. I'm looking at the book that's a binder, and under the funding summary, there is a section called non-tax revenue. I recognize that it's historical, but in 2022, 23, and 23, 24, there was 500,000 and 164,000 revenue. What was that?
I'm having a tough time hearing you and I'm not sure what you're pointing to.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Mr. Sparrow. This is probably more of a question for Mr. Ellis.
Okay.
On page 43 of the binder book, there is a section called non-tax revenue, and it just says miscellaneous, but in one of the years, it was $500,000. So I was just curious as to what revenues that might represent. Tom, did you hear okay?
Yeah, no, I got you. I'm just I'm looking at page 43.
Right in the middle of the page.
Yeah, no, I see it. I'm just wondering, usually when we see these types of things, they're miscellaneous settlements that aren't necessarily related to anything specific. I don't know offhand, but I can look that up.
Just
And let you-
I was just by $500,000 of revenue.
yeah,
So,
no, it's I can get to the detail quick on that.
okay. Nothing.
Mhm. Okay, so we can circle back on that, Tom.
Yep.
Any other questions related to Corporation Council portion of the budget?
I just have one question. I remember being on the BET and there was a settlement of a legal case, but the legal case was probably 10 or 20 years old. And my question for Mr. Spars is there any sort of historical outstanding litigation where we might be found liable for something down the line where it might be, at that time it was well over $1 million or $2 million settlement. It had to do with the taking of the property across from the police department by eminent domain. But it had been a lawsuit long in the making. So I'm just asking on a broader, longer term basis, is there the possibility for some of these unaffected expenses that may be in the docket?
Well, I know that every year when the auditors come in and they review the city's financial health, they always ask the law department about outstanding cases and exposures. And they will say, they may use a word different than significant or, potential significant exposure or something like that, but they attach a dollar number to it. I'm not sure what that is. Then we send something to them. So they have had that. I'm familiar with, there was one case, and I think it's still pending. It had to do with, the provision of services for special needs kids. I'm not the one handling it. I know that there was some significant exposure there. I do know that the city of Norwalk, through its agreement with Kerma, has, though we're self-insured, we have coverage from Kerma after $1 million. So in other words, the city is exposed to the first $1 million. From that would be deducted outside counsel fees, which we have attorneys in this. In other words, if we spend $100,000 on attorney's fees, any additional amount we would have to pay would only be the $900,000. When I say only, but then thereafter. So I'm not sure what the net exposure is on that case. I do know it was included and reported to the auditors. And I
Yeah.
can follow up on that, or we can get that. But that's the only one that I'm aware of that's out there. And again, we do have coverage.
Great, thank you.
And just to back that up, what Jeff was saying, we also have the internal service fund, our insurance fund, which has a portion of it, a bucket of it, as it's known internally, that is set aside for liability, auto, and property claims and settlements. So we appropriate money into that fund each year, and so we carry a balance every year in the internal service fund, and so that what's in there for balance is enough to cover what we project could potentially settle over the next year or so. And we're in contact with Jeff and the law department, as well as Kerma, to to have a good understanding of what could be coming down the pike for us. And fortunately, as Jeff said, we do have coverage through Kerma, which in these cases, in these particular cases of liability, there is a $1 million deductible that we would be responsible for, but they cover anything beyond that. But we appropriate money into that fund each year, and that is also included in this budget.
And what is the balance of that fund?
The overall balance, I could get it for you. I believe I want to say it was around 16 million. It's in the ACFR. I want to say it was around 16 million at the end of last year.
And for rating agency purposes, is that considered in any part of our fund balance, or is that just designated funds as a potential contingent?
Those are designated.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else for Corporation Counsel then? All right, Tom, I believe you said we're gonna skip Town Clerk.
Yeah, but just two quick things, if I may, Ed. We talked about that IT software and our new approach to push the software charges out to the respective departments when they're the only ones or only one of several that are using it. So we will see this type of thing from time to time across other departments. My computer just shut down. Okay. And also, Jared, before we move forward, especially since we have a couple of big hitters up, do you want to just talk a little bit about the salary adjustment? The Corporation Counsel was the first time we saw that, but we will see that one again from time to time. Did you tell them I came in here? Hold on, I'm not on mute, Jeff.
Yes. Yeah, I can address that. When we presented the budget to you guys during that meeting where we presented it, that I mentioned as one of the ways of controlling costs that there would be a 1% reduction equal to 1% of the overall salaries in each department. And so you'll see an adjustment there for each of the departments. which should equal about 1% of all their salaries in total. And so the idea is that there would be savings, you know, rather than doing some kind of hiring freeze, that this could be absorbed in the turnover and the churn of employees, and other ways through salaries. But and we talked to the departments, and if any of them thought that there was going to be some difficulty achieving it through their salaries, that they you know, were certainly could look at the rest of their budget and identify other areas specifically that they wanted to take the 1% from.
Thank you for the clarification.
Welcome.
All right, and then I don't know if you guys caught that. Jeff's computer unexpectedly shut down, so he just wanted to make sure there were no follow-ups. I assured him there were none. He bids you all a good evening. All right, and as we discussed earlier, we are passing on town clerk. Rick McQuaid has other commitments, city-related commitments. And I know on the calendar it says registrar next, so let's go down to that. Sorry, Tina, we'll get to you. So here's registrar of voters, salary up 11.6% year over year. There's their salary adjustment that we just talked about of 4,600. The rest of it is relatively flat. I think everybody at this point is familiar with the general approach we take with this, given the uncertainty of elections. Outside of the regularly scheduled ones, it's difficult to predict. So what we normally do is wait till after an election, get all the actuals together, and then do a request for contingency, similar to what we did with the last presidential election, which was a bit unique because of all of the new early voting requirements. So there's a little background on registrar of voters. Their total percentage is 6.73. We have Stuart as usual, and we have for the first time Diana Palladino.
Diana, do you have something? Well, let me speak till she catches on. As you know, with early voting, they've kind of doubled the cost of elections. We are hoping for some relief. Not going to be substantial, but one of the problems was financially that the voters all put them in envelopes. The envelopes cost money. The stickers on the envelopes cost money. And of course, we had the biggest early voting turnout in the state. We are hoping that they'll put them in the tabulators this year, saving us all that, and the cost of opening all those envelopes, which, since we have to do them in one day, takes quite a few people. That's one of the things we're hoping is going to come from the legislature, but of course they're in session, and anything can happen on some of those. We have new tabulators. They didn't cost anything. The state pays for the tabulators, but the maintenance cost is going to be a little more on the new ones than the old ones whenever it kicks in. We don't have, and there will be some overtime and part-time for training everybody on the new tabulators and on the new election registration system that the state is putting in this June. Now, it's the one they were going to put in last June, so we're still hoping, but whenever they manage it, we will have to all learn it and teach a number of our people about it. On the other hand, there was a great deal of training last year. Overall, it'll be less, because last year we had to get everything up to date on early voting. You got anything else, Diana?
Yeah, so one of the things that I was hoping to just understand, and it sounds like you guys take a specific approach given the unexpected with our budget. But I guess what I'm wondering is the line items that we see historically over the past, 5 years, is there a way to detail those on our end so that there's an understanding as to why the numbers are higher, or I guess what I'm getting at is obviously early voting costs, the potential primaries, new technology like our tabulators and the maintenance on them specifically. And then also we're implementing like a poll worker software program and other tech grades that a lot of the surrounding municipalities have been using for a while. So I'm just wondering, like, how do we outline those expenditures? Can we outline those expenditures, or do we have to stick to the line items that are seen here?
That's a
Um,
question, quite honestly, I'd defer to Tom and Jared in terms of the ledger line items that are available to you.
So sorry, yeah, sorry, Diana, so is the question, do you want to create new line items for specific things, or I'm not quite sure what the ask is.
Yeah, so I guess we're implementing, for example, we're hoping to implement a poll worker software program. And in addition to the initial purchase and cost of that, there's going to be like an annual cost to maintain it. And then and that goes beyond, you know, I don't know where that would be included, maybe IT hardware or technology, but you know, I'm just trying to understand like how, because there's so many things that are popping up. There's a poll worker program now where electors can, instead of using checker books, there's an electronic option, which is something that we're hopeful to consider in the future. So I'm just trying to understand, like, if there was a more detailed breakdown, would it provide greater transparency, like demonstrating, you know, how these investments are in terms of technology? Because one of the things that I think we're learning and understanding when speaking with other municipalities is, while some of these programs are more costly, initially they bring down the cost of, say, manpower and things like that.
Diana, can I suggest that we, you know, if you're okay with the numbers as they are, that maybe we have a conversation offline to talk about details like that. If it's just a matter of, you know, changing the naming of certain accounts or adding accounts, we can, you know, we can certainly do that offline, as long as you're comfortable with the overall dollar amounts.
For the committee's reference, the program for hiring software poll workers and tracking them is under $5,000, so it's not a biggie.
Yeah, we control the account structure, so if you want to add, and other areas have IT software lines, those types of things are not difficult to do, but what I generally tell people, if you think it's going to be a recurring expense year after year, it's worth doing. If it's a one-time thing, it's probably not worth creating a new line, but we can address those individually, no problem.
Okay.
I don't think we're gonna get much aid from the state, if I had to guess, and given the uncertainty in the national political front, that's even more likely that they'll be hanging on, using everything. Last year, we did get some money to offset early voting. Not a whole lot, frankly. I don't think we'll even see any this year.
Yeah, so
Sadly.
I think that's my concern too, is, you know, the comfort level of the numbers. I'm concerned just because now, you know, not only do we deal with the general election and primaries, but we also have early voting for both, you know, both of those as well. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out if there's a way to, you know, really have like an understanding and a breakdown so that we're not constantly so over budget year by year.
Turnout this year will probably be less than half of last year. That's what it usually is. So we will have some year-to-year savings probably until the next presidential election comes around, where everybody votes.
Yeah, I would suggest Diana, to your point, I understand it. Let's get the line items you want for this year. Let's document what you see in terms of overages, underages, etc.
Mhm.
But for the purposes of budget right now, we keep you where you are. And as we have in the past, use contingency. Let's keep documented records of all of that. And then we can determine into the next fiscal year whether we need to make budget adjustments.
Okay, understood, yeah.
That
makes
sounds
sense.
fair enough. I would guess, however, that a primary for mayor is rather more likely than it would have been.
Absolutely. Okay. Any questions from the rest of the BET related to registrar of voters? Okay, seeing none, Tom, let's keep moving then.
Okay, next is the chief of staff, Tom Livingston's area, including his, as well as city clerk and communications, and customer service. So he's got a few different areas here, the chief of staff, and again, we've got a few half-year hires versus full-year hire calculations, so that skews their percentage up a little bit, but just scrolling down to the bottom, overall, he is at a 12.7% increase year over year. It's about $132,000. But we will come back up here and take it away, Tom, or any BET member who wishes to.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add. You've already explained the differences. Basically, they relate to half year versus full year, as well as for normal wage increases.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask, Tom. This is nothing more than an annualization of salary and the 2.4% salary increase
Correct.
adjustments, correct?
Yep. Mhm.
All of this staff is on board and, is expected to stay on board as we get through the year.
Yes, as far as I know.
Okay. Other questions for Tom? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is the fire department. Let me make this a little bigger. Okay, that should be a little bit better. So the fire department, one of our larger departments, I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom just so you can see that overall they are at 1.91%, really strong request given the size of their department and their requirements. Again, most of their items are actually they're not so bad on the salary because well no, they did have I'm sorry, would be in fire suppression. That would be where the vast majority of the people are in. So the first section is the administration, then fire suppression, which we used to call firefighting. We rebranded a few of these organizations, and fire marshal, which used to be fire inspection, and then we've got fire training and a few other items, the mechanics division and stations and buildings. But Chief Gatto is on. I thought I saw Mark Conti as well somewhere, but and Ed McCabe. We've got all three of them. So
Royal here. Thank you very much, Tom. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and the other members of the committee. As you can see, there's quite a few lines in our budget here. We did have a couple of adjustments that we had to make while we were writing the budget. We started out at 2.1%, and then we had to absorb a $75,000 IT transfer into my budget for software. And then we had a $201,000 reduction for salaries, which now we're at 1.91 is the bottom line. So not sure if you want me to go through every single one of these lines. if you have something that stands out, I'd be happy to answer it if I could. Question.
Chief, I just have one question before I turn to my board. Row 23 of the spreadsheet, the salary increases for fire suppression of roughly $500,000, $540,000. While on a percentage basis, that's relatively low and in line with what we're seeing. Approximately how many employees does that account for within the department?
So we have 11 vacancies, and each one of the vacancies are also budgeted for. So there's 136 line suppression firefighters. There's 8 in the fire marshal's division. And then you have well, those are the ones that mainly the ones in that the wages and salary of fire suppression. So you're talking close to 140, 141 people.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
It puts it puts $540,000 in perspective. So thank you.
Yeah, and this is the area where they had a few half-year hiring freezes last year. I want to say there were 4 of them, Chief. Does that sound right?
1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3.
Okay.
Okay.
So that drives that percentage up a little as well.
Yep. Okay. Questions from other members of the BET?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, it's Troy. Quick question. You said there's 11 vacancies. What's the, is there a next class coming in? What's the timing to fill those? I'm just curious.
Well, the Connecticut Fire Academy runs 2 training academies per year. One is usually in February, one is usually the end of August through the end of the year. We just hired 8 people last year. We're taking a little bit of a break because we don't want to hire so many brand new people. The Fire Commission has granted us to hire 4 more this year. So we're looking at putting 4 more on probably in this budget year right now, before the end of June. So there'll still be maybe 7 vacancies for next year's budget. There are a couple of people projected to retire, so that drives up the vacancy rate. We never fill all the vacancies, and Tom could tell you, finance likes to keep a few vacancies. So there's always 3, 4, 5, 6 vacancies that we keep.
And we're comfortable with the coverage with those 11 vacancies at the moment.
Yeah, well, yeah, we're fine. We've had 20 one year that we had to deal with. So yeah, we're fine with that.
And there's still a pool of potential people looking for those jobs, right?
There's over 800 people that want to work in Norwalk right now.
Okay.
We have a
Thank you.
very, very robust list.
How many, Chief? 800?
Yep,
Wow.
it was like 785 to be exact.
Now, what just curious, what's the starting salary for a firefighter right out of the academy, a new firefighter?
That's a good question. They start at step 0, and I'm not sure exactly if it's like 70,000 maybe. Tom might know off the top of his head.
Yeah, not off the top of my head, but I'm looking at it right now.
And then they work their way up to step 5, which would be top pay after 5 years.
This, well, actually, I think we budget this as at the mid-range, so.
Like 76?
I've got 86, but that's,
80.
that's the step, that's the 3rd step, so probably high, yeah, you're probably close, high 70s.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And it was a 20-year and they get their pension. Is that how it works? 20 years up here?
Depends on their age. There's been some contract changes. They have to go to age 52 instead of age 48. They have to go to age 52, and I believe it's 25 years now. And then they get 50%.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a brief question, Chief Gatto, is our
Yes,
compensation relative to our neighboring towns?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part.
Is our compensation above, below, competitive, on par with the neighboring towns?
Well, to be, I'm not sure. I think we're very competitive in the firefighting range for those salaries. I know the chief officers make more than what we're getting paid. But we're not asking for more. That's just a fact. And I believe we're paying better for the deputy fire marshals than some of the other towns. So yeah, we're very competitive.
I'm sorry, when you say chief officers, are you referring to the city or in the fire department?
Fire department,
Okay, got it. Thank you.
you're welcome.
I had a question. I see other repairs and maintenance, and it looks like other operating supplies. There's a jump about $30,000 or so. and
Yeah,
it brings up the average. Just wanted clarity around.
okay. What's the
Yeah,
what organ and object are you looking at? Is that the one in the mechanics?
Yeah, 131535269. Other repair and maintenance.
Okay, right, I got it. So this went from, I believe, 14,000 to
48.
48, right, it's a difference of 30,000. Let me look that up on my other paper over here, give me 1 second.
Chief, I can speak to that. That's
Go ahead.
Yeah, I can speak to that. We basically, for that, we had, we consolidated other line items for that. So if you'll see, there's a lot of minus 100% where we had, lumber supply or painting supplies, and we had
Yeah,
we had a
I
lot
see.
of that stuff. So we tried to move everything into one for the other building repairs, because every year, it's not really enough to do anything. So it was really better to have one other repairs if we have to paint something, or if we have to fix, some doors in the station, or something like that. It was easier to have it in the one account. So we sort of consolidated a lot of accounts.
And it's the same for other operating supplies. Another line item seems like the same thing.
Yeah, we did that. We tried to do that in a few of these. That's what it would be.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chief, team, I would like to thank you again for your fiscal responsibility and realism. Coming in at 1.91% is greatly appreciated. So thank you very, very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
thanks, guys. All right, yeah, next up, another one of
Have a
our,
great night.
good night, Chief. Another one of our larger departments. This is the police department. Let me just clean up some of the columns here. And let's take it right to the bottom to see where we ended up. I think it was pretty favorable. Yeah, so they are just about spot on what the target was, a total of 2.52% year over year. Similar stories as before. 3.35% on the salaries for the administration. Uniform patrol is their much bigger one and just about flat year over year. And who do we have? I know we have Mickey, we have Chief Walsh, we have Deputy Chief Evans, and I thought I saw one more, but forgive me if I missed somebody. Go ahead, Chief.
Yeah, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Tom. Yeah, we're at 2.52 increase. Our original submission was reduced by $227,000 upon the request of finance. Some of the major drivers of that increase are technology, Special Victims Unit IT software subscription increase, saw an increase of $10,000. the wellness checks, which are state mandated, post mandated. We saw a considerable increase in the cost to do those mandated wellness checks of the officers, and that's an unfunded mandate from the state. We saw an increase in ammunition cost, which is the cost of inflation across the United States right now. So we are dealing with a significant increase of ammunition to keep up with training and yearly and monthly qualification for the officers. We also moving forward with the prepared 911 system. The 911 system is the prepared 911 system is an integrated 911 system that is integrated into our call center. What it does is it automatically translates 36 languages into text for the dispatcher. So if the 911 caller is speaking one of those 36 languages, it gets transcribed for the call taker so we can communicate better. That is technology we've never had before. And we're testing it out right now, and it's working well, and it has a lot of advantages in regards to actually printing out the whole 911 call and transcripts of everything. So it's a great useful tool, especially in the city of Norwalk when we have so many multiple language speakers in regards of French, Creole, and Spanish and other languages. So like I said, it does 36 languages. Dispatch overtime, to keep up with overtime and staffing. We did see an increase in dispatch overtime. We do have two vacancies right now that we are trying to fill, but that is a long process to fill certified public safety dispatchers, because by the time they go through almost a year of training and certifications, it takes them a long time to get solo employee status to work alone in that dispatch center. And we're also moving forward with the Flock license plate reader cameras. That's new breaking technology going across the United States. We've already moved forward with several of the cameras, and what they are is those are license plate readers that we've had installed at strategic locations throughout the city of Norwalk. And what they do is they read license plates in from public access and public eye view, and they're picking up stolen cars. So what we have done, like I said, we strategically placed them in areas where we experiencing high levels of stolen car activity. And since their installation, we've seen a decline in stolen cars, especially in the Rowayton area, where we've put a couple, and some of the feedback that we're getting is all positive. So that's breaking technology that we're using to lower crime in the city of Norwalk.
Thank you. Chief, one question from me before I turn it to the rest of the BET. And if I missed this, I apologize for not paying attention to what's going on in the city. But there are a significant number of line items associated with the new police headquarters and a significant increase in the building's costs year to year. Can you just speak to that quickly? It's line 236 in the spreadsheet.
Yeah, because traditionally, the building services responsibilities and expenditures was under the building management budget, and now they're being pushed over to the individual departments that they represent. So we are incurring more and more building costs to maintain a 20-year-old building. That building was built in 2005. For instance, we just went through a major elevator repair. It was down for 2 weeks. So in a 20-year-old building, we're starting to see some failures as things break, and it's highly used 24 hours a day. The lights never shut off in the police department. So as some of the costs have shifted to the different departments, and combined with the fact that we're dealing with a 20-year-old building, we have to keep up with repairs.
Thank you very much, Chief. So Tom, we should see, my words are failing me tonight, but we should see corresponding decreases in some of the building department budgets as we go forward through our reviews. Is that a fair statement?
I'm not sure. I don't think this is a new initiative, Chief. This isn't the first year where they're doing that, is it?
No, it's not new this year, but
Okay.
it's new in the past few years. And,
Okay,
and those,
yeah,
and
so-
those costs are
Okay.
increasing. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
and that's Neil Rennie, and you know, the vast majority of his stuff is contract related, so he does not have a whole lot of flexibility on that stuff.
Understood.
But I will say, Chief, you mentioned the number 20 several times, so I'm taking that as a suggested action to drop the new in the description. Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, we can just put police building.
Done.
Thank you. Other questions from other members of the E BET?
Just a quick question. Chief, thank you once again for one of our largest budgets and also coming in at the number that we were looking at. How many officers does this budget entail? And just quick question, what is the starting salary for a new guy also? And do you have any vacancies right now?
We budget for 183 sworn. Right now, we're at 182. We have an officer retiring at the end of this month. And we're already replacing him. So we always like to stay fully staffed because that's our goal. Because as we saw a few years ago, with fluctuations in workforce, we could lose people in a year. And it just like the dispatchers, it takes us a lot of time to recruit, send them to the academy, field training, equip, make sure they're ready. So that's like a 9-month process. So we always like to be proactive and progressive and lean forward and remain fully staffed.
And what was the starting salary with a person right out of the academy?
With different stipends for college degrees and something, it's approximately $69,000 currently. But there is contract negotiations going on currently.
Yeah, and on my file, I'm looking at a step 3, Troy, so that's maybe 2 or 3 years out, and that's at 86,000.
Great.
So Troy, you can decide whether you want to apply to the police academy or the fire academy. That's about the same salary range.
Yes. Thank you, Chief. Great job in the city, by the way.
You're welcome, sir.
I have a couple of questions. Number one, there's a lot of talk relative to the police overtime, and my understanding is that overtime is all just a pass-through of a police officer doing work for CLMP when there's work that's being done. It's not necessarily coming out of the city's salary budgets. Is that correct?
Mrs. Yang, could you clarify that question, please?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My Wi-Fi isn't very good. There's a lot of press relative to the salaries of the employees of the city, and police officers end up on top because of the level of overtime. My understanding is that the overtime is really a pass-through and it's not necessarily a burden on the city. I just wanted to confirm that, clarify that, because I don't think the press quite understands that.
Yeah. This past December, I sat down with a couple of reporters and clarified that as best as I could in regards to proper messaging. There are 2 streams of extra compensation a officer can receive. It's called extra work. Extra work is when an officer is hired by an outside company for permitted work in the city of Norwalk, such as construction or security or the Oyster Fest or the Pride Fest or any of the festivals that we have. Those monies come out of the private vendor, in which the city receives a 15% fee. I'm sorry, let me back that up. The city receives 7.5% fee. The company that controls and manages our extra work receives 7.5%. So I think last year there was $6.9 million in extra work. And we were approximately at $2 million of internal overtime. And internal overtime is used for mandatory minimum staffing in patrol and other vacancies that are needed. So when patrolmen are off on a shift because of sick time, compensatory time, vacation, or workman's comp, we have to meet minimum staffing on the first platoon, second platoon, third platoon. And we also have minimum staffing for our investigative divisions, or especially the Detective Bureau. And a lot of overtime is for case overruns when officers get called out, detectives get called out on investigations for emergency services, scuba team and such like that when they're off duty. So that's where primarily all of our overtime and our internal city overtime is used.
Okay, thank you. And Tom and Jared, if I go back to, again, the budget book, I'm looking under funded summary. There is a line item, capital outlay, on all of the groups. Is that capital outlay part of the capital budget, or is that a different kind of capital outlay?
No, that's, it's at least, it might be more, but it's at least IT software. So I'm still looking at that corporation council one, and I recognize that number of 7,500 in there for, that software that Jeff was talking about. So, I'm not quite sure exactly what else rolls into that, but I can check and let you know.
Okay, then under non-tax revenue, under intergovernmental for the police department, you're anticipating for this coming year close to $750,000, up from $500,000, up from 200 in the previous year. What is the source of that revenue?
Our revenue usually comes from the records division, pistol permits, or in different permitting that we receive in the police department.
That may be under licensing and permits, but there's an intergovernmental line, which is up 52%. And it's, so the licenses and permits are 47 grand. Service charges,
It looks like there's, Chief, it looks like part of it's in, combined dispatch as a state grant for emergency something. For, well, at least, in 25, it's 233 grand.
Could you tell me what object number that is so I could reference it on my paperwork, please?
Yeah, it's 13070 4120. And that is the only other big one that I see that could possibly be, maybe administration has a little bit, federal grant, 013010. State reimbursements.
I think I can get better clarification from Mickey on this one.
okay.
I believe the bulk of our revenue in the police department is a 7.5% cut that we get, that the chief previously outlined, from extra work. And I believe what's being referred to now are state grants that involve communications and things like that. I don't have the breakdown of that in front of me, but those are the main two revenue sources that we have in the department. The other things are like the chief said, the pistol permits and different sort of permits, but I know that the extra work revenue, the 7.5%, is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I guess, gentlemen, the core of if I interpret the core of Ms. Yang's question, there's a significant anticipated increase in revenue. What's driving the anticipated increase in revenue?
Hi, and if you turn to page 193, it has a breakdown of they're anticipating. Do you want to look at that?
Yep, got it. Thank you.
And yes, and they have the breakdown. That's the 478,000.
Thank you, Agnes.
So I'm sorry, so the 478,000 is
The JAG grant, DUI, Project Safe Neighborhoods.
okay. And then what about the 769?
769. Which page is that one in?
No, it's under non-tax revenue,
Yeah.
and there's intergovernmental,
Mhm.
and goes from 5.4 for this fiscal year going up to 769 next.
That's probably another line item, but those are the state grants. I can give you a breakdown.
Okay, thank you. And is there risk to these grants, given the current environment?
I think Mickey would be the better person to answer that.
At this time, we've received no information that any of our grants are in jeopardy.
Understood. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else for Chief Walsh or Mickey? Gentlemen, thank you. I will echo Troy's comment. Appreciate you coming in at a bottom line that is in line with the guidance that we provided as a city. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, sir. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, Tom, where are we going next?
We are finishing up with patient Tina. Not as in hospital patient, but exhibiting patients through this process with HR and personnel. And just to jump right to the bottom line, very strong submittal at 1.6%. And that is with, oh, I know what the story is here. There was a hiring freeze on that one, which would have driven the percentage up, but I will let Tina finish the explanation on that.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much. So,
Little, you're a little muffled, Tina. Can you speak up or?
yeah, can you hear me now or?
A little better.
My laptop's over here, so I'm gonna just
Okay.
move it. All right, let's see if that's better.
Yes.
Okay, I think it's because my laptop is over here, my mic is over here. So our budget is pretty self-explanatory this year. We didn't have any large initiatives last year and the year before. BET was very kind to us and allowed us to purchase some modules for NeoGov to allow for a smoother onboarding as well as a learning program. And so we're still working on the final implementation and training of that. So we decided not to ask for anything this year outside of the norm. As far as our salary line, we had two vacancies. We had a retirement of a senior individual who had been with the city for 23 years, I believe. And so there was a hiring freeze at that point on that. And we've done some restructuring on our positions, which allowed us to reduce our salary line item overall. So we are in the process. We have it was previously called the benefits manager. We've worked with both the unions to create a new position. It's called the retirement benefit specialist. That's still vacant, that we do intend to fill. We're actually in the screening process right now. So that's kind of the story with our salaries. But we did do some kind of configuration based on some vacancies and obviously the retirement. John Schlosser, who's, like I said, with the city for a long period of time, recently retired. Well, not recently. It's been almost a year now, retired. So, and everything else is pretty status quo. Our IT services number is due to that NeoGov. We had entered into, I believe it was a 3-year contract. So we're in the last year of that 3 years to pay for the additional modules that you thankfully allowed us.
Thank you. Any questions for Tina? Well, thank you again, Tina, and appreciate the financial due diligence here.
Thank you so much.
All right. Tom, I believe that's it for this evening.
It is, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, tomorrow night is economic and community development. And then on Thursday, we'll finish up the week with a pretty big agenda, the community services, including the library, as well as public works, operations, and recreation and parks.
Okay, great. To all the department heads who showed up tonight, thank you very much. Before asking for a motion to adjourn, just want to make sure there's no other outstanding questions from any members of the Board of Estimate and Tax. Mr. Mayor, any closing remarks from you?
No, I think overall, when I gave marching orders to the department heads relative to the increases that they would be putting forward, I think everybody followed pretty much suit, and And I think they're doing a great job. So I think we're looking at during a very difficult budget year, we're looking at probably being able to manage it as best as we possibly can under the circumstances.
Thank you very much. With that said, may I get a motion to adjourn, please? Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Kendrick. We are
Kendrick, it was?
adjourned.
Kendrick, it was on the motion?
Kendrick on the motion at 7:46 PM.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
All right, have a good night, everyone.
Night.